My younger brother, the family favorite, and his bride-to-be had the nerve to ask for my inheritance to pay for their wedding. And when my parents backed them up, I did the unthinkable, I aired one of our family's biggest secrets. But first, hey, I'm Kayla. I'm 27, the oldest kid in my family. We're not rich folks, just your average middle-class crew. We've always had enough, never went hungry, but nothing flashy either. My parents, Denise and Gerald, have been running a cozy little bakery in our town for over 2 decades now. It's the kind of spot everybody knows, a fixture in our small-town life. Money was never pouring in, but we got by. My folks were hard workers, and they made sure my younger brother and I understood what that meant. Jordan's 25 now, and let's just say, he's always been the golden child. Growing up, it was no secret, Jordan could walk on water as far as my parents were concerned. Whatever he did, they defended him without hesitation. Slacked off in school? Boys will be boys. Did something halfway decent? They'd act like he'd won a Nobel Prize. To be honest, I didn't really care back then. I never needed to be the center of attention. I kept to myself, worked toward my own goals, and didn't get caught up in the family drama. If Jordan needed the spotlight to feel special, he could have it. It didn't bother me, until recently. That's when everything changed. So here's where it all kicks off. 5 years ago, my grandpa passed away. That hit me hard. He and I were really close. And when his will was finally read, I found out he'd left me a trust fund. It wasn't some jaw-dropping fortune, but it was enough to give me a real leg up in life, if I played my cards right. But of course, there were conditions. I can't touch it until I turn 30, and even then, I can only use it for certain things, like buying a home or going back to school. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I'm not a big spender anyway, so my plan was just to leave it alone until I really needed it. I had a couple of ideas, maybe buy a small place in the city, or even start my own business, something I've always dreamed about. Fast forward to earlier this year, Jordan popped the question to his girlfriend, Sierra. She's 26 and comes from money. Not like yacht rich, but definitely upper crust compared to us. I don't want to sound petty, but Sierra's got this whole polished, people-pleaser vibe going on. She walks into a room, and suddenly, she's everyone's best friend. I actually liked her at first. She seemed fun, warm, until things got weird. It happened at a family dinner a few months back. We were all sitting around the table when, out of nowhere, Sierra brought up my trust fund. Her tone was sweet and casual, like she was talking about the weather, but it totally caught me off guard. She asked what I planned to do with the money once I had access to it. I mumbled something vague, probably mentioned maybe buying a place or starting a business. Honestly, it felt weird even talking about it. I mean, that's kind of a private thing, right? What was I supposed to say? Sierra gave me this bright, sugary smile and goes, "Wow, that's so lucky." Then she followed it up with, Jordan and I could really use some help with the wedding, or maybe even a house down payment. Jordan kind of laughed, like he wasn't sure if she was serious. I laughed too, thinking it was a joke. But she didn't laugh back. She just kept looking at me, like she was waiting for me to say yes. The whole vibe turned weird. My parents quickly stepped in and said the money was mine, and it wasn't really something to talk about. That shut things down for the night, at least for the moment. But after that dinner, something felt off. It was like Sierra had planted this little seed in everyone's mind, and I didn't realize how fast it would grow. Every time we had another family get-together, she'd find some sneaky way to bring it up again. She never came right out and asked, but her comments kept getting more pointed. Stuff like, "It's amazing you're in a position to help your family like that, Kayla. Not everyone gets that chance." At first, I brushed it off. I'd change the topic or just smile and move on. But she kept pushing. And pretty soon, it wasn't just her. Jordan stayed quiet in the beginning, but eventually, he started dropping little comments too. They were subtle, but the message was clear, he was siding with her. He'd say things like, "I mean, you're not even using the money right now." He even said, "I kind of get where Sierra's coming from." That's when I decided to talk to my parents, hoping they'd help me draw a line. But what they said caught me off guard. Instead of backing me up, my mom goes, "Sierra just wants to feel like she belongs in the family." She followed it up with, "She's not being pushy." Which was wild, because I hadn't even said that word yet, but that's exactly how it felt. At that point, I felt cornered. I wasn't trying to stir up drama, but I wasn't about to give away money I couldn't even touch yet. I had real plans for that fund. Still, I figured if I kept calm and stood my ground, this whole thing would blow over. I was wrong. At the next family dinner, Sierra pulled me aside. This time, she wasn't sugarcoating anything. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Kayla, I really think you should reconsider. Helping Jordan and me would be such a powerful way to show you care about your family. Isn't it kind of selfish to just sit on that money when you're not even using it?" I couldn't believe how bold she was. I don't think anyone's ever called me selfish to my face before. I kept my cool and told her the truth, that the money isn't even available yet, and when it is, I've got plans for it. She stared at me, totally stone-faced, like I'd slapped her or something. Then she said, "I guess I misunderstood what kind of person you are." Jordan called me the next day to say he was sorry, but it didn't feel real. He gave me this half-hearted explanation about how Sierra was just stressed from all the wedding planning and didn't mean to come off so intense. But then he added, "She's got a point, though. You're in a position to help, it wouldn't kill you to at least think about it." That's when I started second-guessing myself. Was I being unreasonable? Selfish? Was I making this into a bigger deal than it actually was? I ended up talking it over with a couple of close friends, hoping to clear my head. They all told me I wasn't in the wrong, but honestly, their support didn't make the weight of it all go away. It wasn't just about awkward conversations anymore, it was this deep, creeping feeling that my own family didn't have my back. The people I thought would stand up for me no matter what, my parents, they just seemed more interested in keeping everyone happy than actually supporting me. And I could tell this wasn't going to fade out anytime soon. Sierra isn't the type to drop something once she sets her sights on it. And Jordan? He was clearly all in on whatever she wanted. My parents were just trying to patch things up without dealing with the actual problem. I didn't know how far they were willing to push this, but one thing was starting to sink in. After that nerve-wracking moment where she straight up called me selfish, I started picking up on subtle changes in how people were treating me. Nothing dramatic right away, but there was definitely a shift. At family get-togethers, Sierra would give me these fake little smiles, and Jordan barely said a word to me. My parents were still trying to keep the peace, but even they seemed distant. Then Sierra started turning up the pressure. She got into this habit of catching me alone at family gatherings and always steering the conversation back to my trust fund. One time, while everyone else was watching TV, she pulled me aside and said, "Kayla, I've been thinking." She hit me with this wild idea: what if I gave them part of the trust as a wedding gift? Not the whole thing, just enough for a down payment. Apparently, she'd been losing sleep over it. I couldn't believe she had the audacity to ask that. A wedding gift? Who even says that with a straight face? I politely told her no and reminded her, again, that the money wasn't even available yet. And even if it were, I already had my own plans for it. She stared at me like I'd just kicked a puppy. Then she said, "I really thought you cared more about your family." She went on about how she and Jordan were starting a life together and how much this would help them. "It's not like you need the money right now," she added. I couldn't believe it. The entitlement was unbelievable. I didn't say another word, I just walked away. But that wasn't the end of it. Sierra kept pushing. Over the next few weeks, she started changing her pitch. Now it wasn't just about helping them, it was about uniting the family. She started calling it an investment in our future. I nearly laughed out loud. What was I supposed to expect in return, interest payments? Meanwhile, Jordan was slowly starting to echo her. He hadn't flat out demanded anything yet, but he started testing the waters. Little comments like, "You're in such a good place right now, Kayla. This could really help us get started." I felt like I was being softened up for the ask. I went to my parents again, hoping they'd finally step in and shut it down. But when I explained what was happening, their response floored me. My mom said, "Sierra just wants to feel like she belongs here. And you know Jordan's always struggled more financially than you." Struggled? Are we even talking about the same upbringing? We were raised in the same house, with the same rules, went to the same schools. The only real difference? I busted my tail to save and plan, and Jordan, well, he didn't. Then my dad added, "We're not saying you have to do it, Kayla. Just think about it. Sometimes keeping peace is more important than being right." Keeping the peace. That's what this was all about to them. Not fairness. Not respect. Just not rocking the boat. And that's when I realized this was no longer about Sierra's pushiness. My parents were enabling it, whether they meant to or not. And then came the breaking point. Jordan and Sierra invited me to lunch, just the three of us. I thought it was going to be a chill sibling hangout. But the moment I sat down, I knew something was off. They made a little small talk about wedding plans, then Sierra leaned in and dropped the bomb. "Kayla, we've been thinking, what if you gave us half the trust fund? That way, you'd still have plenty left, and we could start our life without all this stress." Half. She actually said half. I took a deep breath and calmly told them the truth, that the money still wasn't available, and when it was, I had no intention of giving away any of it. That's when Sierra flipped the switch. She started accusing me of hoarding money that could benefit the whole family. Said it wasn't fair that I kept it all for myself. Jordan chimed in with, "I get where you're coming from, but Sierra's got a point. This could change everything for us. You're in the perfect spot to help." It felt like I was being ambushed. I walked out of that lunch feeling emotionally wrung out. A few days later, my parents called me over, saying they wanted to have a family meeting. I showed up to find Jordan and Sierra already there, looking way too pleased with themselves. My parents sat me down and started talking about how they just wanted things to go back to normal, that they didn't want the family falling apart over money. And then my dad looked me straight in the eye and said, "Kayla, maybe it's time to seriously consider giving them a portion of the trust." "It doesn't have to be half," my dad said, "just enough to show that you care." I just sat there, stunned. My own parents were now gently pressuring me to give up my inheritance, all to keep Sierra content. I stood my ground, told them a firm no, and left without looking back. Since then, things have only gone downhill. Sierra's been working the phones, spinning her version of events to the extended family. Now I'm getting flooded with messages and calls, from uncles, aunts, even cousins I haven't heard from since middle school, all chiming in to tell me I'm being selfish, that I should do the right thing. It's like I'm living in some twisted family drama I didn't sign up for. I keep asking myself, is this really happening? How did my entire family get pulled into this? I'm seriously starting to question my grip on reality. I've tried setting clear boundaries, tried to explain myself calmly, but no one's listening. It's like I'm speaking into a void. I've even started wondering if I need to get a lawyer involved, but the idea of taking legal steps against my own family makes me feel sick to my stomach. After that awful lunch with Jordan and Sierra, the one where they had the nerve to ask for half, I hoped maybe they'd back off a little. I made it crystal clear, the money isn't even available, and even when it is, I'm not handing it over. I was angry, sure. But mostly I just hoped if I stayed quiet, the dust would settle. Then my parents called. Dad's voice was calm, almost too nice, which instantly set off alarm bells in my head. He asked if I could come over to chat. I asked flat out, "Is this about Jordan and Sierra?" And my mom said, "Not exactly, but it's important." Against my better judgment, I went. The moment I walked through their door, I spotted Jordan and Sierra already sitting on the couch, sitting upright like they were prepping for a job interview, fake smiles and all. My mom motioned for me to sit. That's when it clicked, this wasn't just a talk. This was an ambush. It started off soft. Dad asked how I was doing, how work was going, the usual warm-up act. But it didn't take long before they shifted gears. Mom leaned forward and said, "Kayla, we've all been feeling the tension lately. We just want to figure out a way to move past it." I knew exactly where this was heading. I glanced at Jordan and Sierra. Sierra gave me that tight-lipped smile she saves for when she's pretending to be civil. Then Dad jumped in, "We think maybe it's time we all try to come to a compromise." Compromise? I asked, already annoyed. And what exactly does that look like to you? Jordan leaned in. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Look, Kayla, we know you've got plans for the trust fund. And we respect that. But Sierra and we're really struggling right now. We're trying to plan a wedding and figure out our future. Even just a small contribution from you would help more than you know." Before I could say anything, Sierra chimed in. "Exactly. We're not asking for half. Just something. Something that shows you support us. This isn't just about money, it's about family." At that point, I swear, the word family was starting to sound more like a threat than a value. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice from shaking. "I've said this over and over, the money's not even accessible yet. And even when it is, I have plans for it. I'm not handing it out like party favors." Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Kayla, no one's saying you need to give them a huge chunk. But even a small portion could go a long way toward easing the tension in the family." I blinked at him, stunned. "So I'm supposed to dip into funds I can't even touch yet, just to keep everyone happy? Why was this suddenly my responsibility?" Jordan sighed, like he was exhausted just having to explain it. "It's not just about the money. It's about showing you care. You're in a good place, Kayla. You could really help us get started." I turned and looked at Sierra. She had this smug look on her face like she'd already won. Like this was just a formality. "This isn't fair," I said, trying to keep from raising my voice. "I've worked my butt off to plan for my future. That trust fund? It's part of that. Why should I give it up just because you two decided to get married?" Sierra's smile disappeared. "This isn't about fairness, Kayla," she said, her voice sharp now. "It's about family. Jordan and I are trying to build something. And you're in a position to help us. It wouldn't even be a sacrifice for you." Then my mom jumped in, her voice gentle but every word cut deep. "Sweetheart, I think what Sierra's trying to say is this could bring us all closer together. Sometimes, holding on too tightly to something just makes things harder for everyone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents, who had always backed me up in the past, were now siding with Sierra. "I'm not clinging to anything," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "I'm following the rules of the trust. I've got goals, I've made plans. Why is that so hard to understand?" Silence fell over the room like a wet blanket. Then Sierra spoke again, this time with frost in her voice. "You know, Kayla, I think the real problem is that you're not willing to put the family first. Jordan and I have always supported you, and now that we need something from you, you're just shutting us out." "That's just really disappointing," Sierra muttered, shaking her head like I'd let down the entire family. That was it, I stood up, completely done. "I'm not shutting anyone out," I said, trying to keep my composure. "I'm just not giving you what you want. That doesn't make me selfish, and it definitely doesn't make me a bad sister." I looked at all of them and added, "This is my money. My decision. And I'm done talking about it." As I turned to leave, my dad got up and tried to stop me. "Kayla, wait, don't walk out like this. We're just trying to find a solution that works for everyone." I stopped at the door and looked back. "You mean one that works for Jordan and Sierra," I said flatly. "Because let's be real, that's all this conversation was ever about. If you honestly can't see how messed up this is, I don't know what else to say." And with that, I walked out. Since then, I've barely spoken to my parents. Jordan and Sierra? Radio silence. And honestly, that's been a bit of a relief. But the silence has also been heavy. I feel cut off, like I'm on the outside looking in. It hurts more than I expected. I always believed, maybe naively, that no matter what, my family would be there for me. That even in the messiest moments, they'd have my back. But now? It feels like they've all turned against me over something that wasn't even up for discussion to begin with. All because I won't hand over money I can't even touch yet. I don't know what comes next. Some days, I seriously consider cutting them all off and walking away from the drama for good. But then there's still this tiny voice in my head hoping maybe, just maybe, things can go back to how they used to be. So, after that last exhausting family meeting, I took a few days to just process everything. My phone was still lighting up with calls, texts, DMs, all the usual noise. And most of it boiled down to the same message: you're selfish. You need to think about what's really important. And not one of them cared that the trust fund wasn't even available yet. That it had conditions. That it wasn't some free-for-all piggy bank. They just saw dollar signs and wanted their piece. The final straw came when I got a call from my cousin Tessa. She's one of the few people who's been in my corner throughout all this. And what she told me? It made my blood run hot. Apparently, Sierra's been working the family circuit, whispering in ears, telling anyone who'll listen that Kayla doesn't care about family, and that it's heartbreaking to see someone pick money over her own brother. I knew Sierra could be manipulative, but this? This was a whole new level of underhanded. And it didn't stop there. Tessa also said Sierra had been asking around, digging into my personal finances. Asking relatives what they knew about my situation. Trying to figure out how much money I really had. Trying to find some back door into the trust. That was the moment I realized I needed legal help. I made an appointment with a local attorney who specializes in estates. I laid everything out, every text, every phone call, every passive-aggressive comment. She listened closely, and when I was done, she looked at me and said, "Kayla, this isn't just inappropriate. This borders on harassment." She reassured me that the trust fund was airtight, only I had access, and only under specific conditions. Hearing that lifted a massive weight off my shoulders, but it didn't fix the here and now. My lawyer advised me to start collecting everything. Screenshots. Voicemails. Emails. Any evidence showing a pattern of pressure or manipulation. And if things didn't calm down? She said we'd need to send a cease and desist. So that's what I did. I spent hours digging through my phone, organizing texts from Sierra, guilt-ridden messages from Jordan, even the subtle digs from my mom. It felt awful, like I was preparing a case against my own family, but I didn't see any other way forward. Meanwhile, Sierra didn't let up. She started posting shady status updates on social media. Stuff like "it's sad when family turns their back on you over greed," and "some people care more about money than people." No names, of course. But if you knew the story, you knew who she meant. Some of the comments on those posts? Brutal. And soon I was getting messages from old acquaintances, asking what was going on. It was humiliating. Then it spilled into real life. One day, a coworker pulled me aside. "Hey," she said, "I don't want to freak you out, but someone called HR asking about you. Claimed to be a relative. They were trying to find out your salary." I was stunned. Who else could it be? Everything lined up: timing, context, tone. All signs pointed to Sierra. That night, I called my lawyer again. I told her about the social media smear campaign. About the phone calls. About the attempt to dig into my job. She didn't hesitate. "It's time," she said. "We're sending the letter." The cease and desist was professional but firm. It outlined Sierra's behavior, pressuring, gossiping, snooping, and told her in no uncertain terms that it had to stop. Immediately. It also stated that if anything continued, we'd pursue legal action. I felt sick sending it. It wasn't how I ever imagined things would go with my family. But Sierra left me no other choice. A few days later, Jordan called me, absolutely fuming. "What the hell, Kayla? You sent a legal letter to my fiancé? Do you know how humiliating that is for us?" I kept my voice steady. "Jordan, I didn't want it to come to this. But you left me no choice." Sierra had been harassing me for weeks, and I'd finally hit my limit. She'd crossed so many boundaries, and I just couldn't take it anymore. Jordan didn't see it that way. Instead, he accused me of blowing things out of proportion. "You're taking this too far, Kayla. She's just trying to make you understand where she's coming from. This is about family, not money." I shot back, "If it's really about family, then why is Sierra spreading lies behind my back? Why is she digging into my finances like it's her business? That's not what family does." The call ended with Jordan saying he needed some time to cool off. And since then, it's been quiet, too quiet. No word from Sierra, no more cryptic social media posts, but the tension hasn't gone anywhere. My parents? They're furious with me for getting a lawyer involved. My mom called me up and said, "Kayla, you didn't have to turn this into a legal thing. You could have just come to us." I reminded her that I did, several times, and every time, they brushed it off. That didn't seem to register with her. She was more upset about the letter than everything that led up to it. Right now, I'm just focused on protecting myself. Everything's documented: texts, emails, voicemails. My lawyer's ready if anything else happens. It's not the kind of resolution I wanted. But for the first time in a while, I feel like I've regained a little bit of control. I just wish my family could see how much this whole thing has broken me. The cease and desist letter actually worked. At first, Sierra went quiet, the shady posts stopped, and for a brief moment, it looked like things might finally settle down. But of course, nothing's ever that simple. My parents and Jordan kept the pressure alive. It started with another call from my mom. This time she sounded exasperated, almost angry. "Kayla, do you even realize how much damage that letter caused?" Sierra's embarrassed. "The family thinks we're falling apart." I was already emotionally drained. "Mom, Sierra harassed me for weeks. She tried to turn everyone against me. She poked into my financials and flat out ignored every boundary I tried to set." What was I supposed to do? Her answer? "You could have handled it differently. Sending legal threats to family? That's not how we deal with problems." I hung up. It was clear, for the 100th time, that my parents weren't going to see things from my side. No matter what Sierra pulled, they were still looking at me like I was the problem. Then everything exploded in a way none of us saw coming. Jordan accidentally sent a message meant for Sierra into a family group chat that included me, our parents, and a few cousins. What he sent? It laid everything out, plain as day. The first message read, "I found the messages you sent to your friends about Kayla and the trust fund. Are you serious? You've been bragging about securing the bag this whole time?" Then came the screenshots. Sierra had been messaging friends about how she was counting on my parents to break me down. One message read, "Don't worry. Gerald and Denise will push Kayla into giving me the money. She's too soft to hold out forever." Another one had her mocking me. "Kayla's so caught up in her little business dreams, she doesn't even realize how selfish she's being. That money should have been split with the family from day one." Jordan followed up with, "I can't believe you've been manipulating everyone, me included, just to get your hands on money that doesn't even belong to you. This ends now." And just like that, the entire chat went dead silent. A few seconds later, Jordan must have realized what he'd done because he sent a panicked follow-up. "Oh no, that wasn't meant for this group. I'm so sorry." But it was too late. The chat exploded. My mom replied first. "Sierra, what is this? Is this true? Then my dad chimed in. Sierra, you told us you were trying to work things out peacefully. Have you been lying to us this whole time? Sierra scrambled to do damage control. These are being taken completely out of context, she wrote. I was just venting to friends. You're all misinterpreting things. But no one was buying it. Not this time. Jordan didn't send anything else to the chat after that, but the fallout had already started. Later that evening, Jordan called me. His voice was shaky. Kayla. I'm really sorry. I was planning to confront Sierra privately. I didn't mean for you to see those messages like this. I just hit the wrong group chat. I exhaled slowly, trying not to yell. Jordan, why didn't you say something sooner? You've been defending her for months while she was stabbing me in the back. I didn't know how deep it went until recently, he admitted. I found those messages on her phone by accident. I couldn't believe it. I've been trying to figure out how to confront her without blowing everything up, but clearly, I failed. His voice cracked a little. She manipulated me, Kayla. I thought she was just being firm, but now I see what she really was doing. I'm sorry. For all of it. I sighed, feeling a strange mix of anger and sadness. Jordan, I've been trying to get you to see this for months. Sierra didn't care about family, she cared about winning. About getting what she wanted. I know, he said quietly. You were right. I told him I appreciated the apology, but fixing this wasn't going to be as simple as saying I'm sorry. He agreed, and then disappeared again. The fallout from those texts hit fast. Later that night, Tessa, my cousin and honestly my biggest supporter through all of this, texted me to say that the family group chat had been buzzing nonstop after I left it. People who had been so quick to judge me before. Suddenly, they were rethinking everything. Seeing Sierra's true colors finally turned the tide. But Sierra wasn't about to go down quietly. Over the next few days, she went into full damage control mode. She started calling up family members one by one, trying to spin some new version of the story. She claimed the texts were just jokes. That I'd taken everything way too seriously. She said she was only acting out because of wedding stress. But it was too little, too late. Those screenshots spoke louder than any excuse she could throw together. And most of the family wasn't buying it anymore. As for Jordan, he stayed quiet for a while. Then one day, he called me again. His voice had shifted. This time, it wasn't defensive or angry. It was just tired. I broke things off with Sierra, he told me. I couldn't stay with someone who treated my family like that. I don't know how I let it get so far. I could hear the regret in his voice, and honestly, part of me did feel for him. But that didn't undo months of damage. Jordan, I said gently, I'm glad you're finally seeing things clearly. But you really need to figure out why you let her manipulate you. And why you defended her even when all the signs were right in front of you. As for Sierra? She didn't exactly fade away quietly. Tessa told me she overheard Sierra at a family event, still playing the victim. Saying stuff like, this is all Kayla's fault. If she had just done the right thing, none of this would have happened. Word got around that her wedding plans had totally unraveled. The fancy venue? Cancelled. The designer dress? Returned. Turns out, she couldn't afford any of it, because she'd been counting on me to bankroll her big day. Once her little scheme backfired, the whole thing fell apart. Eventually, she vanished from social media. No more cryptic posts. No more appearances at family events. Just, gone. And to be honest? That part felt like closure. Of course, her absence didn't undo the damage. But at least I didn't have to keep looking over my shoulder. Surprisingly, my parents started reaching out more. I think the whole situation shook them. My dad actually sat down with me and admitted they hadn't handled things well. My mom, who had defended Sierra through everything, finally apologized. I'm sorry, Kayla, she said. I should have believed you sooner. It wasn't perfect. It didn't magically fix everything. But it was a start. Not long after that, I made a decision. I was done playing peacekeeper. I cut off all contact with Sierra completely and laid down some hard boundaries with both Jordan and my parents. Jordan, now officially separated from Sierra, offered a real, sincere apology. He also started therapy, trying to unpack everything that happened and how he let it go so far. My parents, for their part, finally admitted they'd let things spiral way out of control. Rebuilding that trust is going to take time. But for the first time in a long time, we're all actually working on it. This entire ordeal taught me a lot. About boundaries. About self-respect. About the importance of standing up for yourself, even when it means standing alone. And now? I feel peace. My relationships are healing. My focus is back on building the future I want. And most importantly, I'm free from the noise, the manipulation, and the guilt that was never mine to carry.